Welcome. Today is Tuesday, May 9th, 2023. I'm Steve Shields, the president of Royal Asiatic Society, Korea. We are not the Asia Society. That's a different group. There was a question earlier. I think we sorted that. Thank you for joining us. We welcome friends and members who are attending here in the room, and also those of you who are joining us on Zoom. I express RAS Korea's sincere gratitude to the Asia Development Foundation for their continued financial support. We also thank COAT for partnering with us to provide a venue for our lectures. We are grateful for their support. You are cordially reminded that lecture content does not necessarily reflect the opinions or positions of the Royal Asiatic Society, Korea. Tonight is our second annual youth panel. The Royal Asiatic Society Korea youth panels are a unique opportunity for members and guests to have unfiltered access to the country's youth. This provides a rare chance for us to listen, learn, and interact with young Korean adults on their terms, to understand their vocabulary and values, to see the future of Korea before us. While academia and mainstream media paint various pictures of South Korea, this event provides you a lived reality. We're joined tonight by Hyunjee, a student in international studies at Hanyang University. She's part of the Global Asia Leadership Forum and Korea InterVarsity Debate Association. She partakes in various subjects regarding culture, education, politics, the military, society, and more. And also Myungseo Kim, who is a second-year student at Seoul Women's University's College of Interdisciplinary Studies for Emerging Industries, where she's pursuing a degree in business administration. Their presentation tonight is titled, we had it up there before, "In a Collectivist Society, We Are the Happy Mutants." Let's give them a warm welcome. Let you clip it where you put somewhere close. Yeah.
So may I start here?
You're going to hold the mic.
Okay. That's okay.
So we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Myungseo Kim, and today's topic is a happy mutant in Daechi-dong. I once heard that the most unfortunate teenagers in South Korea are students who are living in Daechi-dong with lower grades. If they are top students, of course there are bottom students, but especially students in Daechi-dong who have relatively low grades, even though they tried hard, live with anxiety as if they have become sinners. Can we go to the next page? Can we go to the next slide? Okay. Also, shocking incidents are happening simultaneously in Daechi-dong these days. As you know, the drug drink case and a female high school student who revealed her suicide plans and broadcasted the entire process through SNS Live, and a male student who jumped to his death from a roof of the apartment after stabbing a friend of the same grade. Can we say that all of these things happened at the same time accidentally? Actually, I don't think so. And many news outlets say that Daechi-dong students, depression, helplessness, anxiety are behind these events. After hearing the stories, I seriously thought about my life and my experiences in Daechi-dong where I was born and I still live. And I'm going to talk about the little dark and negative aspects of Daechi-dong that I found in those thoughts and my story in the process of overcoming them. Next page, please. Before. Okay. Today's title is A Happy Mutant in Daechi-dong. As you may have expected, the title refers to me. I'm a Daechi-dong kid who was born in Daechi-dong, and I'm still living in Daechi-dong now. When I introduce myself where I'm from, some people give me a pitiful look, or some people feel a little uncomfortable because I'm from Daechi-dong. I'm already well aware of the preconceptions and images of Daechi-dong, which is like huge amount of study, high stress on students, and institutes lined up in each building. And the image of Daechi-dong that most people think is mostly correct. The question that friends from other regions outside Daechi-dong ask me most about Daechi-dong is drama Sky Castle real? Does drama Scandal really look like Daechi-dong? Then my answer is, even if there's an exaggeration, most of what you think is correct. Next page, please. So the students who people mostly think of as Daechi-dong kids are who grew up in Daechi-dong and who have attended English kindergarten and who have attended several academies as elementary school and who went to also take private tutoring. Even if it's the same subject, they go to several academies depending on the purpose of their studies. For example, they go to one academy for preview and prior learning, and they go to another academy for review and school test preparation. I also took these courses as Daechi-dong kids too. Next page, please. So when I was in my third year of high school, the friends in my academy said, you said you were born and raised in Daechi-dong, right? But you don't actually look like the Daechi-dong kids. So first I thought to myself, do they think I'm studying less? Do they think I'm not that good at studying? But what they said afterwards was a bit shocking. They told me that you look too happy for a high school senior who grew up in Daechi-dong. And I wondered what made me look like a happy student who lived in Daechi-dong, even though I was spending the same life as Daechi-dong students. After thinking about it, I wanted to share my thoughts and my story with about how I was able to overcome the stress in Daechi-dong and live my life in Daechi-dong without losing my happiness. And there may be people who don't know much about Daechi-dong, so I'll give you a brief explanation of Daechi-dong. Next page, please. Yeah, Daechi-dong is located in Gangnam-gu, Seoul. And when it comes to Daechi-dong, Korean people mostly think of an area full of academic enthusiasm. And also, it's a neighborhood that many academies are concentrated. As students come up from all over the country to go to academies, it is truly called the Mecca of Korean private education and the center of Korean academies. It is the area also with the most academies in Korea. Throughout Daechi-dong, there are countless private academies from the Umma intersection to spooky alleys. And in fact, there are almost only academies. And the types of academies range from simple supplement learning to SAT, TOEFL, IB, essay writing, and so on. When most academies end at 10 p.m., the street, which were like even quiet at 9 p.m., becomes really crowded with students at 10 p.m. And in addition, there are many places in Daechi-dong where classes are even held on public holidays, such as Christmas or Children's Day, without any breaks. And furthermore, The law requires the academy to open until 10 p.m., but usually there are some academies still opening after 10 p.m. secretly. So now I think I've explained enough about the academic enthusiastic atmosphere in Daechi-dong. So now I'd like to talk about the two other a little negative aspects of Daechi-dong. Next slide. The first one is that Daechi-dong people are very conscious of other people's eyes. I think I'm a person who is also very conscious of other people's eyes. And in Korean, it means I'm a person who reads others' 눈치 a lot. When I think about how I became that person, I think it's because I grew up in Daechi-dong. And when I was in elementary school, my friends made comments like comparing each other without hesitation. Next slide, please. For example, there are two representative apartment complexes next to the elementary school where I went to. The left one is Lido apartment, and the right one is Emma apartment. And when friends looked at each other and someone looked relatively rich, then they said, "You look like you're going to live in Lido apartment." But the others, they said, "You look like you're going to live in Emma apartment." And they also asked questions like, what's the size of your house? What's your parents' car? What's your parents' job? How much pocket money do you get? Well, these questions were too common among my friends. I heard them so many times, so I didn't even realize that those questions were rude until I became an adult. And in addition, there were quite a few friends who considered about friends' financial ability too much. Yeah, for example, even on days when they had to purely celebrate their friends' birthdays, when their friends didn't have held their party at special places or venues, they said they wouldn't go unless they borrowed a place like bibs or party rooms. I think this must have come from parents that students compare each other and ask questions comparing each other, even if it's not the money they earned. As a result, students ask their parents to buy expensive clothes and backpacks or hats or cell phones that are popular, not to get left out of the group and become the so-called high-quality students. Next page, please. So when I was in middle school, there was a widespread perception that students in Daechi-dong should definitely have luxury goods. Some students who were used to show off by wearing luxury goods, but who didn't have enough money, even did part-time jobs and used all their earned money buying luxury goods. But I'm not criticizing the fact that students earn their own money and buy expensive products. But I sometimes criticize the situation when students showing off by wearing expensive products sometimes ignore the friends who don't have expensive things. And I think those kind of thoughts and situations have naturally led to students being naturally overly conscious of other people's eyes. Next page, please. And I also think academic elitism, which is 학벌주의 in Korean, started from being too concerned about other people's eyes too. And more than 60% of students in Daechi-dong retake this university entrance exam, which is 수능 in Korean. Some students may want to go to a better school to study in a better environment, but most students, the reasons why they retake the 수능 is because they feel like they might get ignored if they're not going to the school that is considered the in Seoul ranking school. And sometimes they retake the exam because their parents are not satisfied with their scores. Next page, please. So the next aspect I would like to talk about Daechi-dong is deteriorating parent and child relationship. One of the unique atmospheres in Daechi-dong is that mothers are considered to quit their jobs and fully take care of their children rather than working. So when I was a class president in middle school and high school, I didn't know why class presidents and vice presidents mothers should have constant meetings, even though they didn't have any special purpose. And mothers, even just classmates' mothers meet each other to share the academic information and the entrance exam, which is suneung information. And also mothers line up to sign up for good academies, and they even line up for their children to sit in the front row of the large classes. In this way, mothers are devoted to their children, but at the same time, they want compensation for the children. So many friends told me that you must be burdened if you're an only child living in Daechi-dong. Your parents may have high expectations on you, and it must be hard. But actually, I've never felt that kind of feeling because I was an only child, but I realized that many friends in Daechi-dong felt like that. And the most common thing students hear in quarrels with their parents are like, I invested that much in you, but what's wrong with your grades? So parents want their students to pay for their dedication, but when their children's grades don't meet their expectations, then they often get angry. Next page, please. Next page, slide, please. And from the student's point of view, when they did their best, but they only hear bad things from their parents, and when they take their report cards home, they don't want to get scolded by their parents, so they try to even manipulate their report cards in PC rooms. And in the case of parents, they think that they sacrifice for their children and invest a lot in these children. But in fact, students only think of the situation when they had a quarrel and had a fight with their parents, and the moments when their parents scolded them. This is because students who are supposed to be the supporters and be on their side of the children has actually played a role of increasing the academic stress on students. One of the things I heard from my friend was that I felt a particularly bad parent and child relationship in Daechi-dong was that she said, I don't know why I should be grateful for my parents for paying my academy fees or textbooks and buying me something essential. Isn't it their duty? Isn't it obvious? And I felt a little upset to hear that because they thought their parents like ATMs or something. Also, it was heartbreaking also to see parents trying to force their children to study excessively to lead their children according to their plan, the parents' plan. Next page, please. Next one. Okay, thank you. I've seen a promotional poster for the academy in Daechi-dong that says the beginning for suneung, the entrance exam, is elementary 4th grade. I understand parents wish for their children to live a better life and achieve their goals later, but I feel sorry for students who study high school subjects. They are elementary school students, and they go to various academies every single day. Next page, please. And actually, I also paid a lot of attention to other people's eyes. And I even told my parents in tears that I felt like a useless daughter because I felt like I wasn't that good at studying like other Daechi-dong kids in Daechi-dong. Even though I lived a similar life to like other people in Daechi-dong, how did I overcome stress and live a happy mutant life in Daechi-dong? Next page. The first thing is self-awareness. Looking at my report card in middle school, actually my GPA wasn't that high. It was actually kind of low. But my parents believed that it was the result of my best efforts, and they didn't rush me or push me, and they just didn't say anything about my grades. Instead, I myself felt the need for supplementary learning So I told my parents the subjects I need supplementary learning and the subjects I wanted to go to the academy. So I had no complaints about going to the academy because I chose to go. And although my grades weren't that good from the beginning because I haven't done prior learning, I could see my grades gradually rise from first grade, second grade to third grade. And I know that there could be some good aspects of prior learning and kind of little preparation is needed. But I was very surprised and worried to see the students around me or elementary school students who have already done high school students and already was being ready for soon the entrance exam. But I think I felt less stressed as a Daechi-dong kid because I studied according to my own study plan, not being forced by anyone or my parents, even though I studied a lot. Next page. And the second thing is parental influence. The most stressful factor in Daechi-dong kids are definitely academic stress. And I also felt a great sense of loss and stress when I didn't do as well as my expectations. And I even cried a lot, even if the mock test didn't go well. However, I think it is largely due to my parents that I was able to overcome the stress and get out the stress quickly and being the positive myself. Of course, I can relieve stress through having a conversation with my friends and hanging out with my friends. But I think my parents' reaction, who are the real supporters of me, had a greater impact and influence on my emotions and feelings. And in my case, the moments that my parents kind of trusted and supported me were the driving forces behind me to overcome stress and study. But meanwhile, many of the students who were under constant stress was suffering conflict with their parents after mock tests or school exams. My friends told me that their parents told sharp words like, "It's not the worth money that I put into you," or "Why are you so bad at this while your friend is so good at this?" And students even received psychological treatments because they had conflict with their parents. They also had academic stress. So even if parents try to motivate their children with sharp words, I don't think that sharp words can be justified. I know parents are the ones who can be the biggest strength on the student's life. So I hope that parents realize their words' importance on their child's emotions and say a little loving and warm words for them. Next page, please. And the last thing is not just looking at the shortcomings, but looking for the good points. I actually had a severe extreme diet when I was a middle school student. I started the extreme diet because it was just started from a simple word. The other classmates said to my classmates that they looked beautiful, and only to me that I looked cute. Actually, word cute doesn't mean a bad thing, but I felt like they were indirectly trying to say that I looked less beautiful than my classmates. So that day, I started the extreme diet, eating less than 500 calories a day. But actually, I felt my body really hurt and I felt dizzy often. And even my friends said, "Just stop it, it's too much." And they even didn't tell me that I looked pretty when I lost weight. They said that I just looked so hard. So I just stopped going on the extreme diet because I didn't need to anymore. And when I finished my diet and just thought about the days before I started the extreme diet, I didn't realize the reason that I started the extreme diet was not because of the word cute, but it was because I was constantly comparing myself to other friends and my classmates. And also I heard a lot from my friends who had a skinny body type I wanted to resemble, saying that they're not satisfied with their appearance and they wanted to change or fix some certain parts of their face or body. And there were even some friends who received psychological treatment due to their appearance stress. This may be because they think themselves are lacking something through constant comparison. That's when I realized that there's no end to comparison. They all overlook their remaining like dozens of beauties and strengths, just looking at the shortcomings, the worst points they think. So I think if it's hard to stop comparing ourselves to other people, I think it's better to just stop looking just at the shortcomings, but rather trying to find one by one the good points and the strengths. Then someday we'll gradually stop comparing with others, like one day. And it's more common than usually people think that Daechi-dong students only think about their worst points and only find good points in others. And the ability to raise student self-esteem will just start with small compliments and finding just the little good points from themselves or around them. Next page, please. Before I end, I'd like to talk about my story a little more. It's a little shame, but actually, I also had an idea of academic elitism last year. I'm a student in Seoul Women's University, but I didn't think I made into the in-Seoul ranking, which is 서연고, 서성한, 준경외시, 건동홍수, 국숭세단. It is the initial of the prestigious universities in Seoul. And my friends who went to high school with me even told me that, are you satisfied with your school? Is it okay to go to a school that you're not satisfied? Isn't it a waste of time not to retake the exam? So I know that, of course, my friends didn't mean any harm or offense, but I was a little intimidated and really concerned about if I should take the Suning one more time. However, when I came to college, I saw lots of friends who were working so hard and who motivated me and who had a lot to learn. So I just focused on my school studies and stopped comparing myself with other people. And then I found myself working happy and having a happy student life, a campus life in Seoul Women's University. Next page, please. So you may feel the secrets of my happiness as a Daechi-dong kid sound a little obvious. However, I felt that many students and parents who live in Daechi-dong sometimes forget these kinds of method and facts. Academic stress, compulsion, and depression, I think all of these things come from low self-esteem. And in fact, I think not only Daechi-dong students, but also the students who are thrown into the Korean academic system also suffer these kinds of psychological anxiety. Their environment can sometimes cause people to have stress and feel pressure, but I think it would be good for students that they find their own survival methods and start with just the little things like raising their self-esteem. I hope that many Korean students will efficiently pass through difficult times like I did, and they live as a happy individual or a happy mutant in that kinds of environments. Thank you. Why? Yeah.
Okay, great. Hyunjee,
Yeah.
you ready?
Yeah.
Let you do the clipping.
Oh.
Take it away.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Hyunjee. I'm from Hyunjee University, and I will be taking the second part of the presentation. Today I'll be talking about collectivism and competition in two different spheres, the professional and the private. So first, I'll give you a general look over about collectivism and competition in Korea in general. Secondly, I'll talk about collectivism in the job hunting industry. I am a fourth year in Hyunjee University, so I'm very invested in getting a job this year. So I think I would know a lot about it at the moment. And then finally, I'll move on to collectivism and how it impacts family dynamics and structure. So first, as a Korean living in Korean society and I interact with people and consume its product, there is one thing that I'm always constantly reminded of is that South Korea kind of lacks diversity. There are over 800,000 people preparing to become a public official every year. And there are 10,270 people who pass the accounting certification test every year, and who knows how much are preparing to get one. And then everyone is preparing for the LSAT or the GRE or preparing for law school, because that's the successful way, right? He also told us about success in Korean society and about school and prestige jobs. Same way, if you want to succeed in Korean society, you opt into the same options that everyone else goes through. And then you look into the industry and the products. They're all the same too. Back in 2019, when I first went into university, there was a marathon boom. I swear there's like shops everywhere. There's still a lot now. And now we have the mint chocolate trend. Have you seen the suju, the burgers, all these other items? Every industry is jumping into the same thing. And the same thing with MBTIs. I thought it was just a funny joke at the beginning, but now there are some companies who ask what MBTI you are. And I think this is completely stupid because, again, MBTI is not that factual, right? But still, Korean society and Korean people have this tendency to jump on the same trends, the same bandwagon. And I think this is what makes competition so bad in South Korea. Because you lack diversity and we jump into the same options that can't accommodate the population we have now, it becomes incredibly impossible to succeed in that track. And I think that's the most problematic point in South Korea, whether it be pursuing a career or doing your dreams or anything else in the society overall. Then why are we opting into collectivism? Well, I like to state that being the outlier has its very distinctive harms. The first is Korea has this fixation on success, right? There is a set answer to success in Korean society, and it's related to financial status and social status. It doesn't matter if you're happy doing whatever you are doing, people will judge you for it. If you're not making a certain amount of money, people judge you for it. If you don't have enough social status, if you don't have enough friends, if you don't have a life as if people think what life is, they will judge you and they will actively shame you for it. And also, you're not really given options in the first place. At a young age, parents already throw you into education to become that successful Korean, right? When you ask young kids nowadays in kindergarten or in elementary school and ask, hey, what do you want to be in the future? They don't say things like, I want to become a president, or I want to be an astronaut, a painter, a dancer. No, they would say, I want to become a public official, or I want to be in a job that's stable or give me a lot of money. And I think this is incredibly sad. And also, if you actively opt into being outside of the societal standards, there are distinctive harms to it in terms of you have one social disadvantage, which is bullying. Bullying is a huge problem in South Korea. You can be bullied within school, I'm pretty sure everyone has at least one experience of being bullied in school. If you're a Korean, I have. I think most of my friends did. And you can also be bullied at work. And it's not major bullying, like physical bullying at the workspace, but there is a lot of microaggressions going around in the working space. And also you can get bullied within your family members. You've seen the K-dramas, you've seen how moms shame their children for not doing something or making bad friends or making bad choices. It's not exaggerated and it's true. And also you can get shamed by your significant other too. And also, finally, as an individual who's not really up to that societal standard, you also have this pressure to prove yourself and prove them wrong, and that you can be better or happier than them. But that in and of itself is also very hard to prove, especially when you're outside of that standard. People judge you for it, meaning you get less opportunities. Let's say you're trying to get a job interview and you have a different background than everyone else. Just because you don't have the same background, people will judge you for it. Why didn't you choose to do this? Is it because you're not as able as the next person? Is it because you're against societal standards? Then you must be hard to work with. If you don't want someone that's hard to work with, then we won't give you a chance. Even if that person could be revolutionary, even if that person could be helpful, you're not given much of a chance in the beginning. So I'll give you more specifics about job hunting in Korea. So this is the general process. First, you have the document submission, the resumes and the cover letters, and you have the aptitude test, you have the AI interviews, you have the first in-person interview, which is held by the working level, and you have the second interview, which is held by the executives of that company. You have a very short internship, and finally, you have the final recruitment with interview and evaluation. So this is the general rule. There could be certain changes within this process. Sometimes you don't have an AI interview. Sometimes you have only one interview. Sometimes there are no internships. But this is the general rule, so keep that in mind. To explain a bit more about the resumes and the cover letters, it's a bit different than the States and other countries. First, it depends on the position and the company you're applying for, but companies usually give you 2 to 3 questions that you should answer and turn in. For instance, SK Innovation gives this one question. It's, what is happiness? And what should a company and an individual do to achieve that happiness? It's very vague, but there is a right answer, by the way. And these are one of the many vague questions that a company can give you. Samsung also asks questions about what was your background, what are some complications you had in your life, and how did you do to overcome it? But your complication should never be illness, it should never be sickness. It should be something that you achieved in your life that people think is great. I'll explain more about the aptitude test and AI interviews in the next slide. So the aptitude test is usually in 4 parts. You have the language, mathematics, logical reasoning, and character. I think the top 3 is pretty self-explanatory. Character is just about your personality. How do you work inside the company? How is your cooperation with other people? Those kind of things. There are different aptitude could be your situation, or could be it's your situation, and you have to how to react to the situation, and also you have the evidence. So the evidence are often they're going to be very
in percentage reviews. And it's quite scattering as our work is looking. Because for the there's many different parts. And most and the duration and everyone is slowly on the next parts. The questions really fast, they also analysis that. So you're a shy person or if you're a very person, or you don't really care about things. So we just how we react to what the questions give you or how you answer the questions. And so all of this personality analyzation AI does. So this is answer to creative questions. Companies. Which is used in the company. Model is all these things. And to and it's a traditional context company spirit anyway. So it's not just and because people stay to trust there's no change. And how you go to the level of in a very silent industry in South Korea. How you go to talk us about the government's industry, the trends, certifications, which is English proficiency tests, and activities and important and also you have to learn how to write the application for this and find a good way to evaluate yourself. So that's not a question that you want to do this possible. Information which are able on the result. So now going to work that we don't have any majors there because of the motivation for the job. Because right now we have to 100 things and it's kind of out, right? It's kind of our house.
Cycle, you lose your confidence, you lose your self-esteem, but at the same time, you're very, very much pressured because society expects you to have a job at this point in your life. But because of this constant cycle, you lose motivation at the end of the day. Your mental health is deteriorated to a huge extent. And so we have the situation right now. This year, in March 20th, they reported of 500,000 labor population not opting into getting jobs. And on a societal level, obviously, it is very bad because you have a lack of labor population. Because I guess this is not a problem for big conglomerates like Samsung and LG and whatnot, but it is a problem for a lot of companies because they see no applicants for that company too. And again, you lack diversity and you lack change. So is the privacy already better? I don't think so. So let's get into more explanation about family structure and dynamics. So collectivism also dictates multiple aspects of family dynamics. So let's start with structure. The ideal structure would be one man and one woman, because we all know being gay is not welcome in Korea. And ideally speaking, 1 or 2 children. And lastly, the ideal distribution of roles would be the financial support goes to the man, household support goes to the woman, and children should be good children and succeed in Korean society and give back to their parents, because that's 효도 and that's filial piety. And you see a huge shift in identity of parents. If you ever noticed, in Korean society, you don't really call parents by their names, but you call them someone's dad or someone's mom. I don't think I've ever heard my mom being called by her mom, my mom's name. I remember when I met my mom's friend, they will call her Hyunjee, and I was so confused because I thought they were talking to me, but they were talking to my mom. And same thing with my dad. When I'm with my parents, I never hear them by their names. And I think that's very sad, because I think you're losing a main part of yourself that was very crucial to you until you had a child, right? And there is this societal perception of dads being stoic, stern, and strong, and they're the breadwinner. And they're not really in the family, but they bring money. And you never see dads cry. I've never seen my dad cry. And also, I think this puts a lot of pressure on these individuals too. And the same thing with mothers. You don't really see them pursue their careers. They're always there for you when you are hurt, when you're going through some kind of crisis, and they're always there. And at what point you start to think, did my mom really want this at the end of the day? Not too sure. And this also puts a lot of negative impacts in the family overall. Because when these roles and these responsibilities are not kept, these people are also very stressed too. So I see a lot of families around me where the dad does not earn any money and he's home. And he is actively shamed by the society as in, oh, you're the dad, why aren't you working? Why aren't you bringing the money home? And he's stressed, very stressed. And when he comes home, he feels the need to exude that leadership figure, and it comes out in a bad way. He would abuse the mother or the children, or he would try to exude that leadership in a wrong way. And mothers too. I mean, we are all kind of gaslit into thinking this should be our rules, right? So the mother would also actively shame the husband too for not bringing that much money or bringing less money than he should. So this impacts the family relationships and dynamics overall too. So rarely I see a happy family where these roles are reversed. It becomes very bad. And for children too, when mothers meet and when dads meet other dads, the constant subject of that conversation is the children. How's your children doing? What kind of university to go to? What kind of job did they get? Are they dating? What are they doing? And because of that, as a child, you also always hear someone's child is doing this. Someone's child already got into a good university, or they already got a job. What are you doing? You should do that too. And this also makes very twisted children. You see a lot of fights between parents and children because of this societal pressure and the pressure the parents give you. And this also brings very unhealthy relationships overall. And because of this, we have the most important problem in South Korean society right now, in my opinion, is low birth rate. We are very, very low in fertility rate, even worse than Japan, and it's getting worse. From a lot of conversations from my friends, they said they do not want to give birth because one, they're very expensive. Second, you don't want to go through that whole identity shift where no one calls you by your name, where you have to give up everything, where you have to give up your career and your dreams. And also, there's a lot of stress on how to raise your child too. I've heard this a lot from my mother because she was a very chill mother. She's not very strict in making me study very hard. She's not strict in pushing me into academies, which I'm very grateful for. But at the same time, mothers would have a lot to say about that. They would say, why didn't you take her to this? Why didn't you bring her into an English kindergarten? Why didn't she teach me math or Korean when I was in the States? Or when I was in Korea, why didn't they do this and that? And she'll be very stressed about those things. And Korea might seem like people don't really care about each other, but at the same time, they very, very much care about what you do and what you say. Because of all these societal pressures and also physical difficulties in getting a child, you opt to not getting one, same as not opting into getting jobs. One interesting outcome that is seen in all of this is that children do not become independent for a long time. South Korea is a developed nation, however, it is still common for 28-year-olds to live with their parents, and I found that very odd and interesting at the same time. According to Eurostat, it's the EU Statistics Institution, the average age of independence in Korea is 30, whilst in the EU it's 25. If you think about it, usually the age men search for jobs because of the military service is around 26 to 27. And the first years being in a company is not at all kind to you, but that is a whole nother conversation. Also, because of the stress of getting a job, there are a lot of people pushing back to get a job, right? I see a lot of people who go into grad school, not because they want to study further on their academia, but because you earn 2 more years of being a student and not going through the recruitment stress. There are people who go overseas for a couple of years, or there are people resting for a couple of years because they know how stressful that job is. And because it is keeping like pushed back and back, you see children who are still aged 32 and living with their parents, and it's not a surprise. And surprisingly enough, it's not that shameful to live with your parents in the age of 28. So the way forward from this, in my opinion, is we already witnessed many shifts in industries, culture, and mentality in Korea. I feel like the fact that we have such low birth rate and we have 500,000 population not opting into getting jobs is us protesting that things need to change. That policy should be reflecting the mentality of students overall. And I think this is a good thing. When we look at media and say, oh, the MZ generation is bad, they're so extremist, I actually want to applaud them. And I think that giving way to some extent it is extremist, but at the same time, giving notion to these things, the unfairness in the industry, the unfairness in society overall, would give light and change to things that needs to be changed. We need to open more conversation online and offline. But at the same time, collectivism and competition, I don't necessarily hate it. The drive for self-development is incredible when your society expects you to be better. I have incredible respect for people who actually accomplish all this, who really can't put into words. And I can't deny that Korea is as it is because of this collectivist and competition in the culture. But again, options are crucial, and I think there should be free will regarding certain choices because we're all pushed into this in the first place, right? Then this leads to how willing are we to step outside of societal standards? I don't think Korea would ever be a non-collectivist society. Then, since we all have the tendency to jump on the bandwagon and turn the trend, why make a new trend of letting people make free choices? Why not make people think more of a freer mentality and say, hey, you can opt into this, you can do that, instead of the same old law school or a doctor and things like that. To be fair, I'm not really that outside of societal standards because I'm still a powerless student in South Korea. But my wish to people is that if you see a youth in Korea and you get to interact with them and they say something out of the societal standards that they want to be something different, then I just hope if you guys meet them, don't shame them and actually cheer them on. And I think that'd be a very great step into changing society as it is now. Thank you.
Yeah, I get in trouble at church all the time when I encourage the young people to not do what their parents tell them to do. Yeah, I'm all for that. All right, both of you need to come back up here. And now's the time for your interview. So, let's see. Here, just a minute. I need you to get this mic, please. I'm gonna let you guys pick your questioners and just kind of share both mics together like this so that, and it will be helpful. Just a minute. It'll help if you repeat his question because the people online aren't going to pick it up. Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hyunjee 씨, 그다음에 김윤경, Myungseo, long-term member of IAS. I do really admire your energy and passion.
Thank you.
To be honest with you, I've been overwhelmed by the presentation. Well, actually, there are so many problems and issues have been raised by the time. I very exciting and enlightening, informative. But okay, let's try to be a little more positive. There's huge amount of problems for any country. Would you remember what the former president, U.S. President Obama said many years ago? Well, he was trying to be nice with us, because I do really admire Korean teaching system because we have to. He called on the U.S. citizens to take a lesson from South Korea. Because education system was the most important contributing to the national development. Okay, what would you think of that? One question, because I'm belonging to a senior generation. I used to work hard with Inco's on. You know what I mean? Working for a trade company, and I had having had finished my high school job 4 years, I just joined with the American company a long time ago. And my American boss said to me, American system, another day, another dollar. That's the capitalist society, right? So if you're not satisfied with you, I have to say that I have to let you go tomorrow. So you have to work hard. That's the American, I learned for 4 years. And the number two question is, they say Korea is going to be the top 3 spot in digital development in the world. So I think that there are many positive, signs in Korea. But when it comes down to education, it's sort of a help. My grandchildren, they go to Harvard. Right after that, 9 o'clock, they have to go to study cafe, and they come back home about 1 o'clock or midnight.
Yes.
They used to spend about 4 years in India, enjoying American school life. But there are huge amount of problems. But what countries should change instead of happy mutant, you better make it unhappy mutant. Why you chose that? Okay.
Here first question, second question.
Did you get the question?
A little bit more positive side. Okay.
So what do I think about the American education system compared to the Korean education system?
That of course, but why Obama praised Korean education system? I don't know.
Education? Oh, maybe.
We can both answer. I think Korean education system is much better than the US one, to be fair.
Better?
Yes, I think the Korean education system is better than the American one because I was in the American education system for 8 years, and I would be factually speaking, I'm much more intelligent in the Korean education system one. I think the American one was very loose and it's very easy to catch up. No offense to any people in the States. But I think the problem with Korean education system is it's enough to just get education in middle school and high school. It's fierce enough and it's very informative, and there will be no harms in just learning from elementary school to high school in South Korea. The problem is the academies, the problem is the private tutors, the problem is pushing these children to do more than they can, or just pushing them to making them do more instead of opting into other things. I think one thing to praise about the US system is that they allow children to do something else. They allow children to do sports, to actively be in like arts and things like that. They have a lot of after school programs. And I think that is very, very great. But at the same time, I think intelligence wise and informative wise, Korean education system is much better. In digital competitiveness, I think Korea is very great in it. And I guess because of the fierce competition in the state that we were forced to push through, I think we have Koreans in general have a very strong mentality. Therefore, when you're pushed in the industry and the companies working till 10 p.m., sometimes 2 a.m., they make it, they go through it, they push through it, they give really great results. So I think this is why we became so successful in the industry, because we work hard and we do it.
Yeah. For the first question, I think you're talking about the documentary that Obama is talking about. South Korea's education is very well developed. And in the documentary, I thought that in Korean education grade systems, students who are good at memorizing theories are, okay, I'll continue, are better getting grades, and it's hard for students to be creative. And as a Daechi-dong kids, I also had the feeling of kind of restricted creativeness because there was always the answers, they were always decided, and there weren't like writing assignments. And I just always to write down what I memorized it rather than thinking and telling just my thoughts. So why I think Obama told that Korean education was well developed was because he thought that the students like studied till 10 p.m. voluntarily, but actually they didn't study voluntarily. Yeah. School kind of forced them. It's called voluntary studying in school, but actually it's kind of forcing students to study. And okay. And the second question, we talked about digital.
The digital system has really contributed somehow to digital development. That's the big question all the time.
I agree that the digital development and the skills are good, like AI, but I heard that many people are going abroad because they don't get the money or as they have expected. So as they have good skills and better skills, they try to go abroad and go to larger companies. So I hope there become more like investment in those kinds of people who are professional. Okay.
Yeah, my question is just for whoever wants to answer it, but I guess my topic came out more in Myungseo's lecture, so probably you. But I also have two questions. They're both pretty simple. The first one is like, you were talking about academic elitism. And I mean, I'm just curious because, you know, every person is different, of course, and there's no monolith, but like, do you think in general that people in Korea really care about their choice of college because they want to learn, or do you think they care about it because they need it as a condition to succeed? And then the second question is, like I also, when I was visiting my girlfriend in Hanam, like I saw some poster, it was like, 초등부터 시작하는 수능 수학, right?
Yes.
And I mean, it's just to me kind of ridiculous because I feel like most kids at this age simply don't have the brain capacity to understand the actual things that they would be learning.
Mhm.
And I mean, do parents also not realize this really, or do they just simply not care? Like from my perspective, it's kind of like trying to swim in the ocean before you even know how to do like an underwater stroke, you know? So I don't really see how there's this huge disconnect. Like, it seems like people would understand it's not really as simple as just, you know, they just learned division, but they can now learn calculus.
Yeah. So, as you talked about elementary school students preparing for suning, yeah, that's actually true. And the parents think that it's essential for their students to study high school subjects when they're an elementary school student, because their goal is to go to a medical university. And that means they need to go to a science professional high school. And that means 과학고등학교, it's science like oriented high school. And to go to that school, they go to a good middle school, prestigious middle school. So they think that the start is from elementary school to go to a prestigious middle school, high school, and university. So it means they don't really care about if their children follow the syllabus. They just try to follow the trend. They're studying high school subjects or the calculus. And your other question was,
Like, do students
university.
really care about like learning at that college, or do they simply care about the college because it allows them to go on the path they need to get a job or anything?
I'll choose that's a path to get a better career, because even if students want to take the course they want to, they rather find the course they can get a better grade so that they can have a better GPA and get a better career. So I think there are few students who really just want to learn and go to college, but they usually go to university because they think it's essential for them to go to university to get a job.
But also you need to put in the premise because of the focus on prestigious universities. It's the prestigious universities that have a lot of funds in terms of learning environment. So usually the ones in Seoul and the ones in the rankings of universities would have a better learning environment. So it kind of correlates. But at the same time, if it's, let's say both are from universities in Seoul, but it's like one Seoul National University and the other is like Hanyang, then there would always be the question, are you going to go for the major that you wanted to or the school that you wanted to? And usually it's the school, because when you're going to get a job, you have much more opportunities within that school in terms of more internships, more job opportunities later on. So I would say school.
Oh, go ahead. Thank you. There we go. Yep.
Thanks so much for your talk, and thanks so much. What do you think are the top 3 solutions to the loss of self-esteem aspect due to the adverse effects? And of course, every country has pros and cons, and there's so many amazing things that South Korea has done. But I guess, there is a cost, and it's scary. I mean, it's scary. Like I was crossing the Han River a few days ago, and I can't believe I saw somebody, like there were like 2 people holding him back. The bridge is frightening. But yeah, what do you think are the top 3 solutions for the self-esteem lesson?
Okay. First, in my opinion, I'm just talking about getting jobs in general, because I think there are two main points where you get really depressed and want to kill yourself. Moment in your life is the first is university entrance, as Myungseo said. Honestly speaking, I'm not free from the wanting to kill myself mentality. I've had that phase too, I guess, in my senior year in high school, or the 3 years in high school. It's very stressful. But I think the second point is also trying to get a job, because you keep on getting rejected. I think the first step for getting a job, or in general, is I found it really helpful when I was applying to like international firms, when they don't like expect you to over exaggerate yourself on paper and say like you're this amazing person, but you just write down your experiences. Like I've had an internship here, that's it. I did this extracurricular activity, this, not compared to South Korea, where you say, I was raised in this background, I have this kind of personality, and I use this to solve this kind of conflict in this amazing activity that I did, proving myself that I am an amazing person and you should pick me. So I think putting a cap on things you write, or making things much more simplified so you don't put in excessive work, would be much more helpful in terms of having a healthier mentality in getting jobs, and making the recruitment process so much more simplified. You don't need 4 or 5 interviews. You don't need all of that, honestly, to see if you are able to work in a company or not.
How to overcome low self-esteem, and actually a hard thing to tell. But in my speech also I've said, like, comparing ourselves to others too much is leading to like negative thoughts, and that leads to low self-esteem. So it might apply to all generations, but I think too much SNS, caring about trends in Korea, also has an influence on lowering the self-esteem, usually on the MZ generation. And I also heard that even if we hear the same like words that are trying to criticize or even curse us, there is a kind of emotional cushion that we can just handle the words. But many Koreans lack that kind of emotional cushion because they don't have the feeling of belongings in their families or even in their friends, because they're comparing their self with their friends, and sometimes think as like competitive, where they should just be jealous about. So I think, as I said, parental influence is a big thing in self-esteem, in my own opinion, and also just stop comparing ourselves with others, and just stop thinking just about the negative things. Just obvious, but the most important thing in like not lowering the self-esteem.
Anyone else? Thank you. I'm just curious. Switch up.
Well,
There we go.
I'm just curious, you showed about kids studying in Hagwons subjects before they learn them in public school.
Yes.
And I've experienced this myself. So I was just wondering, were you personally bored in school when you were studying public school, not versus the Hagwons, because you knew everything already, so you already knew all the English, or you knew all of the math. And I've experienced public school books, and my experience it's not really good. It's quite bad, the government stuff versus the Hagwon stuff. And another question I have is just, do you think any of this is really Korea specific, whereas like Koreans who are living in America are acting the same way? So like I had Korean friends in high school in New York who went to Hagwon till 10 o'clock at night. So is it really a cultural thing, or is it just everywhere? So that's just my insight about that. So I was wondering here.
In public schools, actually, students sometimes don't even listen to the lectures in school. They usually sleep because they just study for their private academy studies all night long, and they just sleep on school, or they just secretly study their private institute homework rather than concentrating on their studies. So I think that's a big problem because they don't really value the private education, and they even think it's better to drop out of school and just take the entrance exam right away, just than spending time in school. Like they think it doesn't mean a lot. And we usually think that we learn like social relationship, like besides education, but students don't really value that kinds of ethic learning. So they don't really value public learning these days. Yeah, and we'll just talk about Americans. Americans. Korean.
I agree with you that America's quite loose, and one of the inspired me to come to Korea is that you guys work really hard and study really hard, and I realized I didn't in America, so that was kind of inspiring. I just, yeah, what I want to say though in that regard is like, do you think some things could be changed to just make the public school system better?
About the
Let's go back to your second question about American, Korean kids in America, and then we can deal with that one. I don't know how you still have the mic. I usually like to take it away from people. Talk about this question about Korean kids in America going to Hogwarts.
I did have, I think all of us know that we have a huge Korean community in Irvine in California, so it's not new. I was also part of that. 90% of Korean kids in Irvine would be doing Kumon and all those other extra things. I remember my friend have a whole stack every week that they have to finish at the end of the day because their mom told them to. I don't think, I think it's just a Korean thing. It doesn't matter where you are, you just kind of do it, because even, and for Korean moms, US is the land of dreams, right? They want you to grab that. They want you to be a doctor or whatever in the US too. They just want that status. It doesn't matter what country you're in. So I think it's just the Korean mentality kicking in for that. Yeah.
Now, your third question, about how to improve public education.
Do you think that's Korea focus on versus the Hagwon stress, like focus on fixing government education? Do you think people think like that or not really?
I don't think the public like textbooks and things are necessarily problematic. It's just more like, because the private education is so great, it just was compared to be horrible. Honestly, I think there's just should be a huge cap in private education, because also this exaggerates problems of inequality rate within education and getting all those resources. I think if the government spent more time into getting all of these amazing private structures into public government systems and putting a huge regulations in terms of private education, I think that would be a really big step in making public education so much better.
I ask one very quick question, Steve. I'll be quick.
No, I think you had a response to that question, and then.
Private education.
Yeah, did you have a response to, you reached for the mic, so I assumed you had a response. So
Okay.
go ahead and do that, and then we'll ask Dr. Fizer to.
As of the private education market is so huge, it's actually very hard to shift the atmosphere into valuing the public like education. But I think that the schools also should make effort for students to participate in their classes, because it's generally considered that it's not for all teachers, but they don't really much make effort on their teaching because they don't get like, they don't quit their jobs unless they have a big accident or something. So, and they already know their students are not participating in their classes. They don't actually care about them much. So I think it's better for teachers to improve and trying to develop their lectures, and also students trying to have various activities in school besides education, because private education is so good. So students must learn something different from schools, something practical, like learning about jobs and having several lectures.
I'll be very quick, just like one word answer from you both. You did great tonight. What should the next youth panel be about? What should this audience hear next from Korean youth? What topic, what subject, what would shock them? What should they hear? What do they need to hear? What should be some of the next topics that need to be addressed here, please? Thank you.
That's your final.
Okay. You.
I can't really say one word, but it's just a thought that I had when I was taking your class last semester. It's what is like what's the end of history, right? What's after this? I was thinking Korea is kind of silent at the moment. We're at the momentum where things are changing. There's a clash between the younger and older generations, and I'm just thinking, what's going to happen to Korea after? Are we going to develop? Because we are very much developed in digital industry. I get that, but also at the same time, we're becoming very stagnant. Also, what is after this? I'm not really sure the direction youth is looking at. I think it's half and half. One is the other half just wants to give up because it's stressful at the end of the day. The other half wants to maintain and just push through because that's our Korean mentality. I guess this too is very clashing at the moment. I'm just curious, what are the implications of the next generation and what would Korea look after this now?
It's really a hard question, but I think as I talked about the students in Daechi-dong suffering like some kind of psychological anxiety, and she talking about like students who are potential workers, like having some difficulty. So next time it would be better if someone who already has a job and talks about the difficulties in having in a Korean company, maybe in some kind of community society in Korea. Yeah, I think so.
Thank you both very much.